video of me in this top today. So this video is going to be on rhythms. So rhythms are probably one of the hardest things for us to kind of get a drummer. I mean, I am not a drummer, and I actually don't have any friends that are drummers. I need some like drummer friends. So they're like sole job. I actually do have a student who was a former percussionist. So yes, I guess I'm not like, yeah, anyway, doesn't matter. So drummers are just responsible for the rhythm, you know? They don't have to also add notes and like sound and like tone and like all this kind of nuance, you know, maybe they do. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So, but like in general, it's harder, I feel, for us because we also have to like make all this music on top of keeping the rhythm and, you know, feeling the beautiful music and everything. So I'm going to talk to you about how to count rhythms so that you can like look at music and you can kind of figure out what it should sound like, you know, what the rhythm is when you have no idea what, you know, the piece is at all. So go ahead and just take a little screenshot of this. And while we're at it, you can also take a screenshot of this one. Okay, so let's go back to the very first page, and you'll see that the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be counting quarter notes. So this thing over here, this is the time signature. It means that there are 4 quarter notes. A 4 is for a quarter note. So you can see that there's 4 quarter notes here in this measure. This one, it's still 4/4. You have 4 beats, right? 4 of something. They're 4 quarter notes. So these are eighth notes. You can see that they're grouped in twos. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So there's, even though you don't have any quarter notes in this measure, you have the equivalent of a quarter note here in these eighth notes. And then the next one here, you've got 4/4. You have 4 quarter notes still, but instead of quarter notes, we've got 16th notes, and you've got 4 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to pop the metronome on my favorite number, right? 72. And all we're going to do is we're going to try and keep track of the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Super easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. But then if we go down to this one, we have to figure out how to get 2 of these in every click that we hear, right? Because the beat is 1, 2, 3, 4, but this is twice as fast. So we're going to count it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, because we need 2 syllables. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? Super easy. Now we have 16th notes. So you can see there's 4 little notes in every group. So there's 4 of these in every click that we hear. So we're going to need 4 syllables. 1 E and a. That's what we're going to use. 1 E and a. 1 E and a. 2 E and a. 3 E and a. 4 E and a. Okay? 1 E and a. 2 E and a. 3 E and a. 4 E and a. And they all have to be even. And we got to just stay in that pulse. So let's say, you know, you're totally fine with this, but like there's one of them you gotta like pause and stop for. Well, you've changed the rhythm. So try to just kind of stay in a, sorry, my floor is a little squeaky. Stay in a tempo that you can kind of consistently, it's not too fast for you basically. So the next thing that we're gonna do is, let's assume that we can count this. We need to be able to count it out loud and stay with the metronome. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to play it on our instrument, but maybe we're going to take the metronome out for a moment because I want us to be able to count out loud while we play. I know that it's hard. So we're going to just kind of, the tempo may fluctuate a little bit when we're kind of figuring this out, but just have a little bit of patience with yourself. You got to get all this working, and then we can add the metronome. So I'm going to just stick on an open string. I'm going to play number 1, which was just 4 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one was a bunch of eighth notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then 16th notes, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So until I could comfortably say it out loud and play at the same time. So since we can do that, now I'm going to add my metronome. I'm going to start with my quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Okay, so I'm good. So I can count out loud, I can play and count out loud. And then let's say we had this rhythm. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so let's go to the next one. The next one's a little bit more complicated because we have all these kinds of things happening in one measure. So it's really helpful if you can kind of feel that beat, right? Let's put this on in the background. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So what we're gonna do is we could just count 1, 2, and 3 for E and A, but that's only if we're confident that we're actually gonna hold this for the correct length. It might make sense to kind of subdivide this in eighth notes because we have eighth notes coming up. So this would be 1 and 2 and, 1 and 2 and. That way you're subdividing the rhythms rather than just 1, 2 and. Because I'm telling you, if you just say 1, 2 and, you're probably gonna rush this unless you have a metronome on in the background. Okay, so now this one, we have 16th notes coming up, so it might make sense to just subdivide this in 16th notes. So this would be, this is on beat 3, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So this, you could count it 1 and 2 and 3 E and a, 4 E and a. That way you're kind of preparing yourself for the rhythms that you're coming up towards. So one more time, 1 and 2 and 3 E and a, 4 E and a. That way you're really getting it. Okay, I know that it's kind of confusing. So let's do another one. This one, we've got 16th notes and 8th notes, so you're gonna kind of have to feel that beat. We could count it in 16th notes. We could count it in 8th notes. Let's count it in 16th notes. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 and. Or you could do 4 E and a, but you just need to hold this for the value of 4 E and a. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay, this is kind of a fast speed, but I don't want to kind of belabor this. Maybe this is just an introduction or a review for some of you. So this one's a little bit different. This is a dotted rhythm. So when you have a dot, the dot adds 50% of whatever it's next to. Little math lesson. So 50% of whatever it's next to. So what is half of a quarter note? It's an eighth note. So this has the value of 2 eighth notes plus one more, right, with the dot. So in every quarter note, there's 2 eighth notes, but this dot adds one more. So now we're going to count this 1 and 2 because 1 and is already in a quarter note. 2 is the dot. So 1 and 2 and, that's the end of 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's try it with the metronome. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? So if we had a dot that was next to a half note, right? Let's say we have a half note and we have a dot next to it. Well, what's half of a half note? What's half of a half note? It's a quarter note. So there's 2 quarter notes in a half note, but this dot adds the extra one, right? Because we're adding 50% of whatever it's next to. If you have it next to a whole note, well, there's 4 quarter notes in a half note, right? What's half of that? 2, right? 2 quarter notes, or you could think of it as a half note. So I'm going to just add another 2 quarter notes. So you would hold this for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beats, right? or you could hold it for 3 half notes. It just kind of depends on how you want to subdivide it. But I hope that was kind of helpful, you guys. This is like just a really brief intro to rhythms. But if you can take one thing away from this, be able to count out loud. You need to be able to count your rhythms out loud. Just sit down, take a couple measures, and count the rhythms. Then take your instrument and play an open string while you count the rhythms in your music. And then you can play the notes that are in the music and count out loud at the same time. So that's kind of a good progression of rhythms. Playing with a metronome will really help you. And, once you kind of understand how all these rhythms fit together, it might take you a while, you might, instantly kind of get it. But then kind of reading music might be still a bit of a challenge, Do musicians have all this going on in their head at the same time, that they're playing? Well, when you're first figuring things out, you do, that's for sure. At least I can speak for myself. But then as time goes by, you need to just kind of morph into feeling the underlying pulse and how all of those rhythms kind of fit together. And anyway, I could talk to you about rhythm for a little bit longer, but it's already like 11 minutes long. So I will see you guys very soon. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for sticking around. Bye.